All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever gotten stuck on this thought? How can we really have free will if there's a God who already knows every single choice we're ever going to make? It feels like a total contradiction, right? Well, today, we're diving into one theological argument that tries to tackle that exact paradox head-on. Let's break it down.
Yeah, this is the big one. If God knows everything you're ever going to do, are your choices actually free? Or is it all just, an elaborate illusion? The source material we're looking at today doesn't just leave us hanging with the question. It actually proposes a pretty fascinating step-by-step answer. So let's trace the logic together.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the paradox itself, then zoom way out to look at a plan set before time even began. We'll see how the fall fits into all this, and then, well, it all builds toward a really surprising idea about what true free will might actually be.
First up, the ultimate paradox. This is where we frame the central conflict. So, in one corner, you've got this idea of a God who knows everything, past, present, and future. And in the other corner, you have us, creatures with what feels like genuine freedom. How in the world can both of those things be true at the same time? The whole argument we're exploring is designed to resolve that exact tension. And right away, the argument makes a really crucial move. It doesn't pick a side. It says, nope, we're not watering down either of these ideas. It insists that God's complete knowledge and our complete responsibility for our actions are both 100% true. So the real puzzle isn't figuring out which one is right, but how they can possibly work together.
So how does it even begin to solve that? Well, the argument takes us way, way back, like before the beginning, before time itself. And it suggests that the whole key is understanding the nature of God's divine blueprint. Okay, get ready, because this is a pretty mind-bending idea. The argument claims God's plan for redemption, the cross, wasn't a reaction. It wasn't some cosmic plan B that kicked in after humanity messed up. No, the idea here is that God's foreknowledge of the fall was part of the original blueprint. The solution was planned right alongside the problem from the very beginning.
Which, of course, leads to a really tough question, probably the one you're thinking right now. If God knew all this was going to happen, why go through with it? Why create beings you know will fall? Why permit what you can so easily prevent?
And this quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of the argument. It draws a bright, bold line between using something and causing it. The idea is that God doesn't make anyone sin. He doesn't cause it, but he can use the free choices, even the sinful ones, of his creatures to complete a much bigger plan.
So if you follow this line of thinking, the fall isn't a cosmic mistake. It's more like a necessary, and yeah, a very painful part of the process. It's the backdrop needed to reveal things about God's character that you just couldn't see otherwise. To show what perfect justice looks like, to demonstrate the incredible depth of his love, and, crazy as it sounds, to ultimately perfect creation in a way that wouldn't have been possible without it.
Okay, so we've got this idea of God permitting but not causing. But where's the line? Who's responsible for what? The argument is actually super specific about this.
And this table really lays it out clearly. It's like there are two distinct lanes of responsibility. In God's lane, you have foreknowledge, permission, and using the outcome for his big picture plan. But over in the creature's lane, that's where the actual choice happens, the decision to obey or to sin, and the full responsibility for that choice. God might set the stage, but the creature is the one who chooses how to act.
To make this whole thing less abstract, the source gives us a case study. It tells the story of an angelic being named Helo. Think of a creature created with just incredible gifts, wisdom, beauty, you name it. Everything good, all flowing directly from his creator.
But then, here's the fatal turn. Hel made a critical mistake. He started to look at all the grace and gifts he'd been given, and he mistook them for his own merit. He thought, wow, I must be amazing to have all this, completely forgetting where it all came from.
And that pride, well, it led directly to his choice. He chose to elevate himself, to put his own will first, and ultimately to rebel. The argument is crystal clear on this point. That decision was 100% his. And it was that free choice that transformed him from Hillel, the bright and beautiful, into Satan, the adversary.
Okay, all of this has been building to this point. This is really the climax of the whole argument. Because if free will left to itself always leads to a fall, then what's the point? How is that a good thing? And here's the proposed solution. The idea that the free will we're created with is actually undeveloped.
So what does completed free will even mean? Here's the core idea.
Creatures are created with a will that's genuinely free, but also incomplete. And the argument goes that this undeveloped will, if you just leave it to its own devices, will inevitably choose self over God. It's not a maybe, it's a certainty. It needs something from the outside to be, well, to be completed.
And this is how that process works, according to the source. Step 1, that undeveloped will does what it does and chooses self. The fall happens. Then, step 2, the cross comes into the picture as this ultimate demonstration of God's love. It's an offer of grace. And finally, step 3, by freely choosing to accept that love, that grace, the will gets completed. It's given the ability to make the one choice it could never make on its own, to freely and forever choose God.
So where does all this leave us? It basically funnels everything, the whole of existence, choice, and history, down to one final, free decision for every single creature. It's the ultimate fork in the road.
And here are the two paths. It's a binary choice, really. You can accept the grace offered. If you do, your free will is completed, and that leads to eternal life. Or you can reject that grace, just like Satan did in the story. And if you do that, your will stays incomplete, which ultimately leads to judgment. Two choices, two very different outcomes.
And man, this one sentence really just ties the whole thing together, doesn't it? The love of the cross completes the free will of only those creatures who choose to accept that love. It's not forced. God's knowledge doesn't cancel out the choice. The offer is there for everyone, but the final decision, that's still left entirely up to the individual.
Which leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought to chew on. The source presents a world where our ultimate freedom, our most significant choice, lies in deciding whether or not to accept a gift that perfects our will. So what does that say about the nature of choice itself? Is true freedom found in having endless options, or in making the one choice that completes you? Definitely something to think about.